South Africa, we are now ranked number 2 overall in the prescription market. Our focus on innovation continues, and R&D spends are up 27% this quarter versus the same period last year. Our diversification of assets to facilities continues. As you know, we are remediating facilities in Indore and Goa, but at the same time de-risking our assets to other facilities in our network as well as in the partner network. So that activity continues on, and Cipla continues to do a lot in the area of lung leadership, in the area of AMR, as well as on wellness. Our businesses have shown a very strong growth and are becoming very soon a larger portion of the overall Cipla reporting universe. So I'll stop with that and happy to take Q&A.
Thank you very much, Umang. Before we begin the question and answer session, some technical aspects to be mindful of. Those who have questions, please submit the same in the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Your name will be called out to interact with Umang. The participant whose name is called out will be temporarily assigned as a panelist, which will allow them to turn on their video and audio to ask Umang their questions. We would request that you turn on your camera while asking your question. Please note, when you're being assigned as a panelist, you will see your screen refresh, but this will only take a few seconds. We request that you limit your questions to 1 to 2, so as to allow us to accommodate more attendees to interact with Umang within the stipulated time. In case we receive the same question from multiple participants, we will only unmute the participant who submitted the question first to avoid repetition. Over to you, Lynn.
Thanks, Trina. We'll start with Anju from the script. Anju, I'm promoting you to panelist. Go ahead, Anju.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I've just had 2 questions. You've mentioned the previous earnings call that Cipla expects to embed this 2-site filings strategy for products that are critical, and especially on the respiratory side. So how many products do you estimate would fall in this category, and what does that mean in terms of costs and inspections, and any update on the Advair file as well? That's the first one.
Yeah, so Anju, the new filings that we are doing, almost all the MDIs are being filed from 2 sites. And the Advair filing, anyway, we had mentioned earlier in the US. Right now, that site is getting ready, and then the technical transfer, should start soon after. So we're getting that site ready. The tech transfer would start. The other MDI has already been site transferred to our facility in the US, and new filings, which are MDIs, are already being filed from 2 sites.
Okay, just to understand this, so in the event of inspections, you'd have inspections at 2 sites, or would that?
That is right. That is correct. We would have inspections at 2 sites with the flexibility that if one of those sites is not at that point in time ready, then that site could either stay out of the file or get added later, or continue to be in the file and we commercialize only from 1 site.
Thank you. My second question is on, we've had lots of commentary on FDA inspections, the high compliance costs, and the warning letter closeouts are taking longer these days, and market pressures remain. How are companies like Cipla actually safeguarding the ROI in markets like the US? Is this something that you are calibrating at this stage?
Right. And what we can control is to de-risk our assets. What we can control is to make sure that our facilities operate with the right remediation and the right corrective and preventive actions. And we can't control price erosion. The only thing to control price erosion is your execution of new innovation and limited competition opportunities. So we're doing a mix of all these. We've got a portfolio which is fairly distinct, and we'd like to believe that despite our current challenges of facilities, our portfolio has a lot of steam that is left to be unlocked. We're working on remediating the facilities, but at the same time, we're also creating a de-risking of the asset base by linking each asset, hopefully linking a large number of the material assets to two sites. So that's all we can control. I unfortunately, in as much as we try, the general rigor, the general nature of the inspection or the environment, that's something that's not in our control.
All right, that is Cipla. We should have the Tech Mahindra numbers out for you as well. Okay, so there's a update on Bajaj Finance also. Yes, they are guiding for long-term gross NPAs of 1.2 to 1.4%, but that's actually pointing towards an improvement from what they had guided for earlier. Basically, Bajaj Finance is saying that the asset quality will not deteriorate as much now as what they had anticipated earlier. So actually, it's a positive that's coming in from the company in terms of commentary. We should have the TechM numbers out any moment as well.
Ekta, you may ask your question now.
Hi, Mr. Bora, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Ekta.
Hi, Mr. Bora. Well, congratulations on what's been a good quarter for you all. Just wanted to understand that what is it in terms of margin guidance that we can expect going forward, considering that you've managed to really exceed expectations this time?
I think, Ekta, we had guided last time to somewhere around 23%, right? And I think we're sticking to that range. I think we're hopefully going to see a little bit, we're hopefully going to see a little bit towards the higher end of that range, but somewhere around the 23.5 range is where we expect margins to be.
Okay. What's going to aid the margins?
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
What's going to help the margins? What are the key drivers?
I think the first key driver, of course, is going to be less disruptions. So if we are going to see, another COVID wave or something else, then obviously that's a negative on our margins, or supply disruptions is a negative to our margin. I think what's going to aid the margin is the strong trajectory of all of our four businesses. I think we will have launches in India, we will have launches in the US. And not all of these launches are coming from our own facilities, and we're quite, I think we're fairly diversified with our launch profile. So I do think that the launches and the continued growth in the top line, the season in India and this quarter, hopefully, those should help the margin trajectory for the company.
Okay. In terms of a US run rate, you've done around $222 this time, $222 million this time. And the expectation on the upside was around $218 million. And this is better than $204 million that you did last quarter. So what is the trajectory that we can expect? And within this, how much did, say, Revlimid contribute?
So the trajectory that is normal for us is somewhere around the 210 to 215 quarterly range. I don't think we would guide to something materially higher than that. But I think in terms of the overall, if your question is whether our base business is growing devoid of Revlimid, yes, certainly. Our base business has actually grown quarter on quarter. It's grown quite significantly over Q1 of last year and also over Q4 of the last year. So I think we've shown base business growing fairly significantly. I think Revlimid is now more or less at the same level that it has been. There has been a little bit of an increase in volume, but then that gets offset by other factors in the market.
Okay. And just quickly, last question with regards to Indore. When can we hear from the US FDA in terms of the status of the facility? Is it OAI, VAI, NAI currently? Has it already been classified post the recent inspection?
So we haven't received a formal classification as yet, Ekta. But the fact that we do not have an approval for adware seems to also suggest that the FDA is examining what the classification of this facility should be, because the adware file has essentially cleared the entire review other than facility. So we don't have a formal classification, but as of now, if the facility was to be classified as as NAI, then we would have had an approval for adware by now.
Okay, got it. Cool. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ekta. Next, we have Sohini Das from Business Standard. Sohini, I'm just moving you to the attendee.
Hi, Umang, you can hear me?
Yes, I can, Sohini.
Yeah. Great. So, I wanted to understand that you're one of the largest players in the trade generics business in India. So if you can give me an idea that what is the market size, what kind of volume and value growth is happening in that market actually?
So I can tell you what I think we sense is the overall I think of the overall market in India. My sense is the trade generic market would be somewhere around 25% of the overall pharma market in India. I think
in terms of value, right? I mean,
in terms of value, yes, in terms of value. I think in terms of volume, my sense is that that number is probably close to 40-45% of the Indian volume. The trade market basically covers 80% of it is tier 2 to 6. And it is not metro or tier 1 heavy at all in terms of where it reaches. I think we're seeing, some part of the pharma chain operates with how population growth happens in most parts of the segments. I think the tier 2 to 6 markets today have a total fertility rate which is probably higher. TFR rate is higher than metro and tier 1. So we're seeing much higher volume growth there than we would see in metro and tier 1. So I think if metro tier 1 are roughly giving us 10 to 12%, tier 2 to 6, the growth could be in the range of 14% by value. And I think volume is the key driver there between the two.
Okay. And with the entry of large players like DRL, they have just entered the trade generics market through a brand. And so do you see any price dynamics changing, that, the value share of trade generics growing in overall IPM? How is this going to play out basically?
Well, I don't think essentially, so firstly, this is not a market which is static like the US. This market is growing at 14%. And so there is 14% on a relatively large base has enough size to accommodate players. I think in the trade generics market, your fundamentals really depend on your ability to distribute very wide and far, and to have the trust in terms of your brand name and brand and your company name. I think those are the two important factors that make a difference in the trade generics business. So players who have that will obviously naturally gain.
Yeah. Can you give us an idea as to what is Cipla's market share in this, and how critical is it for your One India business?
No, I think trade generics is very critical. I don't have an idea of the market share per se, Sohini, because there's no established number to the trade generics business. I'd like to believe we should be somewhere between 8 to 10 from the numbers that I quoted earlier in terms of overall share of the trade generics segment. But, what I would perhaps say is that I don't think the story of India plus Bharat is complete without a significant emphasis on the trade generics business, right? Because we keep talking about what we do in metros and tier 1, and that's what we see every day. But, 60% of India lives tier 2 to 6. and 60% of India is now being able to access healthcare and being able to afford healthcare with every year. And I think, therefore, it's very important that there is adequate emphasis and focus given to this part of the segment. So our One India story is not complete with what we are doing on the trade generic side. And actually, it's a very nice continuum, because we realize that brands that have consumer affinity are easily, are created in the trade generics business and then can find themselves in the consumer business that we have. Right. So we've demonstrated that in this continuum of, the branded RX prescription business, our trade generic business, and our consumer health business, there's a lot of synergy in the entire pipe. And we've demonstrated that over the past couple of years. So yes, it's a very important part of our One India business strategy.
Thank you. One last question. I mean, as you just alluded to, there have been brands which have been moved from your RX and GX and consumer business as well. Any plans this year? Number of brands you want to switch to trade generics or vice versa?
Well, we've shifted to very large brands this year. So I think the mandate to the team is to really just stabilize what's been shifted. We shifted Omnigel and Parasip as two brands to our consumer business. So I think they're stabilizing those brands. And, in the future, if there is a need, there will be more switches to, depending on obviously whether the brand and the product can be consumer facing and consumer like, and whether we're allowed to do it by law.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thanks.
Thank you, Sohini. Moving you back to as an attendee. Next, we have Shrishti from ET Now. Shrishti, I'm promoting you to panelist. Hi, Shrishti, you may ask a question now.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
I can't hear her. Shrishti, we can't hear you. Yes, we can see you, but we can't hear you.
Sorry for the confusion. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Umang. Firstly, congratulations on a good set of numbers. Just wanted to know that while the US sales has done pretty well this time, but going on, do you believe or do you expect the pricing pressure to even moderate further in Q2? And what is the visibility on that front?
Shrishti, I won't be able to predict whether it will happen in a quarter per se. But generally, the signs we are getting from the market is that because of the shortages and because of, a large section of the market finding new homes. For example, a lot of US companies have been on sale or have gone bankrupt. I think the supply-demand side of the equation is readjusting or rebalancing, as a result of which the pricing pressure has moderated a bit. Going forward, I think, over the real impact of this moderation will probably be felt more in the next 6 to 9 months.
Okay, and one question on G-Adware, that is one of the much awaited launches by Cipla. We understand that there has been a plant issue, but any timeline that you can give Umang, that in terms of any timeline where you are expecting the launch to happen?
So, Shrishti, if we are cleared at our current facility, which is Indore, we will launch, and within a week of when we are cleared. If we are not cleared to launch from Indore, then the process where our facility is getting ready, the batches get transferred. This launch is definitely out by about a year, right? But having said that, we've already started working towards it, and some portion of that year has gone as we speak. So it will probably be a year out if Indore is not cleared. If Indore is cleared, it will be an almost immediate launch.
Okay, any time that you're expecting the clearance to come, like, or the inspection to happen, nothing on that.
Srishti, I have absolutely no idea of that. And your guess would be probably better than mine.
Okay, Umang, we'll look into that. Thank you so much and wishing you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Srishti. Moving you back to an attendee. Next, we have Monal from BQ Prime. Hi, Monal. I'm promoting you to a panelist. Hi, Monal. You may unmute yourself now.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, Umang. Congratulations on a great set of numbers. I just had one question. How is Albuterol doing in the US now? Because that was in discussion since quite some time, and we've been seeing price erosion, a heavy price erosion there. So how's that doing?
So, Monal, I think we've lost a little bit of share in Albuterol month on month. And I think that's because there was a time where the Pro-Air franchise, of which Teva was the largest, the largest market share, who had the largest market share, had a certain amount of supply balancing. So at that point in time, obviously, the family that we sell of Albuterol, that had gone up. I think it's readjusted, downwards a bit now in terms of share. I think it's stabilized and should grow from here in Albuterol. I think it's now fairly price competitive across categories, Albuterol. So I am not seeing the level of price intensity that we had seen perhaps about 6 months back.
Okay. So when you mentioned that you've seen a growth in the base business, does it mean that you've also gained here?
No, here we've lost a little bit of share. So actually here we have not gained as much.
So how much percentage is it on the entire base business, the growth year on year?
So growth is roughly at least versus last year, it's quite significant. And we're not disclosing segments of our business, but base business has grown quite extensively.
Okay. Except this one particularly.
Except Albuterol, where we've lost it. But Albuterol also, the loss in share has largely been over the last 4 months. So point average to point average between last year and this year may not have been as different.
Okay. So then it should just get better year onwards.
Yes,
Perfect.
we are hoping.
Thank you so much. And what is the sort of growth that you're expecting for the year? Revenue growth?
We haven't provided that guidance, but and I think Q1 is not a growth taking forward. But I would think a 10% growth should be okay.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Monal. Next, we have Sushmita Panda from Financial Express. Sushmita, I'm just promoting you to a panelist. Hi, Sushmita, you may ask a question now.
Hello, sir. This is Sushmita, and first of all, congratulations on the numbers. Could you please highlight some of the key milestones of the quarter, and with respect to product launches, what new can we expect for the India market? Thank you.
I think the India market product launches will be fairly significant. I think we would be doing almost 30-35 launches every year in India. It's a strong market for us. We will also be starting a huge amount of respiratory launches starting the end of this quarter and early next quarter, just pre-season. So India will continue to be very strong launches in revenue. I think overall from a new introduction perspective to revenue, we could expect about 2.5 to 3% of our revenue, or even higher than that, coming from new launches.
with respect to your previous quarter's performance, what are some of the key milestones, and what will be your forward plan for the upcoming quarters in this financial year?
I think the key milestones are reaching the higher numbers for each of our markets. I think we've probably got one of the biggest quarters for India thus far, a biggest quarter for US thus far, a bounce back in South Africa, where again, we've beaten the market. I think strong progress in our pipeline. We just finished a clinical study for a respiratory product, which is a very large clinical study. And several of our initiatives are doing well. Our innovation initiatives are doing relatively well. Obviously, we are remediating a lot of the actions that the FDA from the FDA audits, and I think that's going on well as well. We were Great Place to Work certified. I think that's a good milestone. I think going forward, it will be a combination of how we can keep the base momentum going in India, as well as in the US and several of our other markets.
Thank you so much, sir, and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sushmita. Next, we have Nupur from Z Business. Nupur, I'm just promoting you to a panelist.
We can't hear Nupur. Is she on the call?
No, I don't think she's joined in as a panelist as yet. There's a bit of a lag.
Okay.
Yeah. Hi, Nupur, you may go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, sir. Congratulations on the good set of earnings. Sir, I have two questions. First, your views on the drugs and medical devices bill that to be presented in Parliament. And second question is on the recent comments of US Congress Committee on safety issues in drugs manufactured outside India, and especially the dependence that we have in India. Both the issues I would like to have your.
So I think the devices bill, I think it's good to have that regulation in that side of the market. I personally think that devices are a very interesting area. And for a population like ours, which is going to be large, and yet you'll have people living longer and aging. I think it's a very important thing for us personally within the country. So I look forward to that legislation. Obviously, we'll go through hoops and turns, and I'm hoping that finally what we get out as a bill will be something that will be progressive and will help regulate the market a lot better. I think on the US Congress letter, I think the letter is out in public domain, and from a US perspective, the concern on quality of products coming into the country, is understood. But I think what also has to be kept in mind is that between India and China, most of the products that are brought into the country are coming from India and China, right? And so we have to keep that in mind with respect to the US Congress letter. I think the FDA, in my opinion, does a very stringent job in terms of monitoring facilities worldwide. I'm sure that with the US Congress letter, they will respond adequately to that. But I believe the US FDA has a pretty strong surveillance of most facilities across the world.
All right, sir. Just one follow-up question. Will this require any further compliance procedure that you need to do?
Well, we are right now in the process of remediating our site in Goa and Indore. So I'm not sure that this specifically will lead to anything else, or it will certainly, I'm sure, increase the scrutiny level on products imported into the country in the US.
All right, sir. Wishing you all the best for the coming.
Thank you.
Next, we have Vishwanath Pilla from the Economic Times. Vishwanath, I'm just promoting you to panelist. Yeah, hi Vishwanath, you may speak now.
So on generic Revlimid, I mean, you have been, so have you gained any market share, or is it going stable, this product, sir? I mean,
Vishnath, it's mostly stable. I think this is largely as per the agreement only that has been signed with between most players, and so therefore it's a stable environment.
How long this generic Revlimid kind of opportunity will be there? I mean, like in terms of the revenues that you're getting.
So I can't comment on specifics, Vishnath, but I think it's not like a usual exclusivity product. Let me put it that way. So I do know that the patents expire significantly later than 26, right? And so hopefully it's an agreement that continues for a little bit longer.
So one more is on India, like we have seen the WPI price increase, for the NLEM products. So has that helped you in terms of your margins, sir?
No, actually, the NLEM price increase that has been allowed has also been taken away by the NLEM price corrections. So almost in this last quarter, there's been very little price advantage for India businesses per se. Because the NLEM price reductions happened, starting almost the early part of the year, and the price increases happen throughout the year. So there's not much of a price impact in the India numbers.
And third one is we have seen the cost of logistics moderating and stabilizing, and also the API raw material prices to a certain degree stabilizing. Do they have an impact on your EBITDA in the first quarter?
Yes. So stabilization of prices will also help EBITDA. Because I think the last year's environment was high inflation. This year's environment is moderating on inflation a bit.
By how much, sir, is it? Basis points.
I don't know if we've quantified that. I think if you're asking whether that has resulted very significantly in EBITDA expansion, no.
Okay. Sure. Got it, sir. Thank you so much, and congratulations on your best set of numbers.
Thank you. Thank
you, Vishwanath. Now we'll have the last set of questions coming in from Shivam Tyagi from Business World. Shivam, I'm just moving you to a panelist. Go ahead, Shivam.
Right. Mr. Vora, I want to understand that, in the US market as well as the Indian market have been quite well for you in this quarter. What have been the highlights? Which products would you say have performed, better than the others in this quarter?
No, so I think most of our products have either increased share or have grown quarter on quarter. So we are seeing that other than Albuterol, we've seen lenalidomide, we've seen lanreotide, we've seen several other products, right? And there were some new launches which have also come nicely. So I think between the mix of our channels that we service, as well as products that we are launching, we have seen an increase. So it's been a quarter in the US which is pretty, I would say, well diversified in terms of growth. And so too in India, almost all our therapies, other than perhaps the acute therapy, where the season has started later, almost all our therapies have done well between respiratory and cardiac.
Right. Going forward, when we talk about the R&D expenditure and innovation aspect, what will be the strategy of Cipla in FY24? How you're guiding yourself in that direction? You previously said that, Cipla will be a company where, 5 to 7 or 5 to 6% is the percentage of sales that we can expect in terms of R&D. What is your outlook for FY24?
Yes, I think we are sticking to that range, and we do want to increase the number of products that we put into the R&D engine. We are not a company in the US that will go after multiple number of products, but go after lesser number of products, but products which are chunkier and which fade longer over a period of time. So I think that's our strategy overall on R&D.
Right. In terms of the US sales, has the price erosion aspect lowering effect come in the sales, and what would be the range that you are currently assessing at this point in time of price erosion? What would be that? Is it single digit, and what is that range?
Yeah, it is single digit. I think it is single digit, and maybe in the it's not going to be high single digits, probably moderating a bit from there. But that's our estimate of price erosion for the US.
Right. Going forward, though, how would you say the Cipla strategy would be in terms of investments in India? In be it organic or inorganic, are there any?
We would love to do.
We can look out for?
Yes, we would love to do inorganic investments. I think it's a function of what we find affordable and value accretive, and whether we are the people who are able to win that particular deal. And right now, our record is that we have won some, but we have also lost some deals to competition. So yes, we are on the lookout to inorganically grow our India business.
Right. When we talk about product portfolios going forward, are you looking at any new therapies, or in terms of market, are you eyeing some market, or Cipla will stick to the basics? And
no, I think our markets are selected. We are very clear on India, South Africa, US, a few of the emerging side markets. So I'm not sure we are looking specifically at other markets right now.
In terms of therapies?
Yeah, and therapies between cardio, diabetes, between respiratory, between therapies of urology. Those are it's the same therapies. I don't think.
Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Shivam. This brings us to the end of the Q&A.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. See you next quarter.
Thank you, everyone. And in case you have any follow-up questions, do feel free to contact us separately, and have a good evening.